Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Whitemarsh Township Board of Supervisors meeting for October 7th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I see we have some guests here tonight, and welcome. I'm going to get to the announcements. But just so you know, this is a budget meeting also tonight. So first, we're going to do our monthly meeting, followed by the budget meeting. So now I'm going to turn it over to JC for the announcements.
Thank you, Fran. The Whitemarsh shredding event took place on Saturday, October 5th at Miles Park. Over 300 vehicles went through and destroyed some old documents. Many thanks to the Parks and Rec team and Spring Mill Fire Company for helping at the event. This week, October 6th through 12th, is Fire Prevention Week. This year's theme is smoke alarms. Make them work for you. Please make sure you have working smoke alarms in every bedroom and hallways, and on each level of your home, including the basement. In addition, replace the batteries on a regular basis. As we observe Fire Prevention Week, the Board of Supervisors want to thank the men and women of our fire companies at Spring Mill Fire Company and Barron Hill Fire Company for their service in protecting the residents of Whitemarsh Township. As leaf season approaches, leaf collection begins October 21st, and potentially snow plowing in the future, the Whitemarsh Township Public Works asks that residents remove their portable basketball nets, hockey nets, and other obstructions from the roadway to avoid any potential damage to both the township equipment and the personal property. Thank you.
Thanks, JC. We're going to jump in. Do I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from September 12th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Carries. Moving down to ordinances. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 1043, amending the mobile food truck vendor ordinance as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. McAnally.
Yes, Fire Marshal Thomas is here to give a little update on that.
All right, Andrew. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for considering this ordinance. It's to better align with the mobile food inspection program that Fire Marshal Weaver started when he was here. This is more of an official document that spells out everything we're looking for, and the goal is to continue to have safe operation of food trucks for residents, visitors, and people that work here, and so they can enjoy it at all their special events.
Sounds good. We have any board comment? Any public comment? Come on up.
Linda Dahl, Fairway Road. Printed out the whole thing. I read it, but of course I don't understand it all. So I'm hoping what I'm going to ask or comment on is already in here somewhere. And I guess I'm thinking it's section 80, on page 2, section 85-19E, where it says under a special event permit issued by the township, there's exemptions. I'm guessing that's what that reads. What I'm inquiring about specifically is I'm part of the board of the Colonial School District Education Foundation, and we now on this Sunday, and it's all taken care of for this year, on Sunday we have food trucks. That's part of our fundraising event. And I know a lot of the school, different fundraisers have food trucks, and we charge those food trucks. We wanted to charge the food trucks $250. They would not pay it to come. We had to cut it in half to $125. They agreed to pay $125, and they're coming, and they keep all their profits. We just get $125 out of it. So I'm hoping that this ordinance has different designations for a nonprofit like us trying to make a fundraising event, that you're not charging them a permit fee also, because then they just won't come, and that won't be part of our fundraising. Because like I say, they'd only pay $125. If you can add on here a permit fee of $75 or something, they just won't come. So I don't know if that's part of this or not. Is it?
So Andrew, I know this came up for Foundation Day, correct? Did you want to answer this question? I know there's special circumstances.
This gets handled on a case-by-case basis, and it will be reviewed by myself and the township manager and the party that's applying for it to see if if the food trucks will have to pay the township $75 or if it's waived because they are a nonprofit or someone associated with the school district.
Sounds good. Makes sense? Okay.
Is he actually saying, okay, because of the school district, so we're talking about next year, that they would not have to pay $75? And somehow that says this in here
So
without
what-
him saying, does it say on a case by case? I did not read that in here.
Well, usually what happens is that we get a phone call from the school district when we have these events. We then talk to Andrew. Andrew meets with the school district and the vendors, and then we figure it out.
Okay.
So-
I guess what I'm asking is, from my past experience with a lot of things in the township, so I feel like a lot of people don't even know what this means anymore when I say it to kids, a broken record, that I keep repeating this, is that, you guys aren't always going to be here. He's not always going to be here. So I would like it to actually say that in writing, that we will review these on a case-by-case basis. Because right now, everybody's friendly and all this is happening, and you did help us out this year. I really appreciate it, because we're having it on Sunday. But if it doesn't spell it out here, future generations aren't going to know that. So it really needs to say, to be reviewed by the fire marshal on a case-by-case basis for nonprofits, or however you want to state it, because I don't see that in here right now.
Got it. Thanks, Linda. Any other public comment? Mr. McAnally, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Doreen?
Yes.
Ms. Moy?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Chair McCusker?
Yes, ordinance carries. Thank you. Moving on to motions. Do I have a motion to adopt a new fund balance policy for Whitemarsh Township as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. McAnally? Or is this Mr.
Yes.
Barron?
Back in May, we had our quarterly meeting. We discussed this briefly then, and this is just really a generally accepted accounting principle through the GFOA, is to have a fund balance policy for the township. What that will do is, once the level of the general fund balance exceeds a certain percentage, we would then transfer that into a capital reserve fund. In this case, we have the capital reserve fund, an OPEB fund, and then next year's general fund. And there's levels of percentages for each, 40% to 60% to the capital reserve fund of anything in excess, 15 to 25% of that excess to OPEB, and 0 to 25% for next year's, or for the following year's budget. If it does fall below that threshold of 15%, we would have to have a plan to move forward within 3 years to get that fund in the general fund up over that 15%. So it's just really kind of giving us a mechanism to keep funds where they should be and stash away funds for a rainy day fund. Say if we have another pandemic or something and our EIT goes down or so forth, we have the funds ready to move forward and continue the operations of the township. So we're asking for just to approve the fund balance policy that we have. And well, like I said, it's the fund balance policy would range from 40 to 60% to the capital reserve, 15 to 25% to OPEB, and 0 to 25% to the general fund for the following year. All this would be approved by the board on an annual basis as well.
Okay. Any board comment? Any public comment?
Good evening, Frank. Good evening, Board. Nice to be here. Some of my questions were answered earlier. I had a sidebar conversation with the Finance Director back here. I forget your name. Kevin. He answered some of my questions, but I just have a couple of questions, though, that we didn't get to. The first one is, how much is currently in the general fund balance that's not allocated, that's going to be distributed?
Do we know that, or we'll get...
Kevin knows.
8.5 million at this time.
Okay, so if the township Kevin told me earlier that Township's expenses are around $5.2 million. So 25% of that is going to go into the general fund balance, right? And then 50% of that remaining amount is going to...
Hold on, Tom.
The budget's 21.1 million. So if you use 5 million, 21 million,
Okay.
you're using all different numbers. So you got to have the right numbers to come up with this. So the fund balance policy is to take excess over the budget. So the budget's 21 million, and then 25% of the budget's 5.2 million, right?
Right.
So there's an excess of 3.2 million.
And that's
That's the only thing you can move.
Okay.
If we move it, we got to come back to the
So-
board and say we're moving $1 million to general fund.
Tom, can a lot of your questions be answered during the budget portion of this, you think?
Sure, why not?
It'll be more of an opportunity to talk then.
I'm just trying to figure out like what the mechanics of it are going to be, and then also are there going to be different caps also? Like for example, if the capital fund gets to be, I don't know, $10 million, above that level, then I don't know, does some money get returned back to the taxpayers, or how's it going to work?
We could talk about that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize advertising an ordinance which will amend and clarify the zoning ordinance provisions pertaining to the change of a non-conforming use?
So moved.
Second.
Charlie?
Thank you. This is a relatively simple amendment. There are provisions in the ordinance now to change a non-conforming use or a grandfathered use to another use. Dave Sander and I have had some conversations recently, and interpreting it, the language is not very clear. It uses a double negative, and it uses a term, less restrictive regulations, and that's subject to some interpretation, whether you're talking about less restrictive use regulations or dimensional regulations, both, one or the other. So we looked at other ordinances. Dave surveyed a number of other ones, and we asked him to come up with an amendment that basically makes it clearer how you interpret a change, and it's been made, or it's been written such that when somebody wants to change it, they have to show that the impacts essentially are less than the non-conforming use that's currently there. And it spells out the impacts that you have to evaluate. So it makes it clearer for staff and the board to be able to make those determinations. So it would be revising 116-192 with this new amendment, and taking out and repealing 116-195, which has some conflicting and repetitive language. So what we're asking is to authorize this advertisement. Originally, this was going to be on your Thursday night agenda, so just to put it in perspective, the Planning Commission will be looking at this tomorrow night, making a recommendation, so any recommendation you make should be subject to the Planning Commission suggesting that it move forward.
Okay. Thanks, Charlie. Any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the September 2024 expenditures totaling $857,930.53, payroll totaling $634,723.61, and pension plan expenditures totaling $3,591.36?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the public comment period. So, Ann, you want to come up?
Actually, Jen is going to.
Jen's going to come up.
This is Jen.
How you doing, Jen? Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Jennifer Tucker.
All right.
My name is Jen Tucker. It will be under 5 minutes, maybe closer to 2, because I talk quickly. We're here to call your attention to the issues at the Montgomery County SPCA, which has 3 shelters, the largest of which is in Whitemarsh Township, down the road, and that's where the administrative hub is as well. A September 22nd front page story in the Philadelphia Inquirer pointed out many issues with the shelter. It has more money than any shelter in Pennsylvania. It has $67 million in assets. It also has the highest euthanasia rate of any shelter in the state. 1 in 5 animals that goes into that shelter will not come out. This is your shelter. If any animal in this area is lost, that's where it goes. That's where the police take the animals. If anyone needs help with an animal, that's where you go. We believe that at least 3 of your county codes are being broken right now. Section 39.8 says that dogs and cats should be treated for preventive vaccination against rabies by a person qualified to practice veterinary medicine in Pennsylvania. They do not have a vet right now. They have a part-time vet for 3 locations. Ann and I both volunteer there. We know for a fact, we have evidence, we have photos, everything, that people who are not trained are giving the rabies vaccines to animals there. Section 39C states that every shelter should have adequate and sanitary drainage. We know for a fact that's not happening, and that was part of the Enquirer article. Animals are standing in their excrement and their urine and getting burns on their feet as a result. That Section 39C goes on to state that every keeper, every shelter shall basically collect excrement daily. We know for a fact that's not happening. The cages are not cleaned out every day, maybe twice a day. Animals don't want to go outside because they've been going to the bathroom out there for about 5 days and there's nowhere to go. In 2019, this body took a stand against the cruelty involved in a local circus and said that that was inhumane. And we're asking you to make some sort of statement on behalf of all the animals in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think as we as a board, when we speak as residents, like I think I said in my emails, we can't really take action on a business within the township. But anytime we hear about cruelty to animals or any living creature in our neighborhood, we take exception to that. So we are on your side with this. We would love to help in any way we can as residents. We'll discuss as a board, maybe we can issue a statement somehow, but we'll get back to you. But thank you for coming out tonight. Hopefully you got as much out of the beginning part of this meeting as you did out of your comment. Because I know it's very invigorating. When I get here and we're talking about things like fences and zoning, I'm always highly energized. So keep coming back. But thank you so much for coming. Any other public comment? Any board comment? Go ahead. I'd like to announce that we had executive meeting tonight where we discussed real estate. And I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Whitemarsh.